Shansol found himself in the middle of a chaotic dressing room. The noise and movement felt overwhelming. The young man suddenly froze. A memory of Seo Taiha flashed through his mind, triggering a visceral reaction. Shansol felt a wave of frustration. He couldn't understand why such a disturbing dream had haunted him. Trying to shake off the tension, the protagonist asked a staff member for some water. While waiting, Shansol remained distracted. His mind was still racing with thoughts of the other man. The unknown man handed over the water with complete indifference, treating Shansol like an inconvenience. Shansol felt a surge of irritation at the rude gesture. The lack of courtesy only added to his frustration. The young man tried to compose himself, though his mood remained sour. He felt completely out of sorts. A sharp exchange followed as the stranger walked away. The tension between the two remained thick. Left alone with his thoughts, Shansol recalled the disturbing nature of his dream. A hidden shame began to weigh on him. Shansol took a sip of water to clear his mind. The young man stopped abruptly as another presence caught his attention. Taiha intervened with a sudden gesture, warning Shansol about the bottle. A strange tension filled the air as the two men exchanged looks. Shansol felt confused by the warning, yet he couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude. A sudden interruption broke the tension as a new presence entered the room. Confusion swept over the group, but the urgency of the situation quickly took priority. The young man beamed with excitement, eager to face the crowd. Bright lights signaled that the moment of truth had finally arrived. The hosts welcomed the audience to the live broadcast of Music Up. The competition had reached its peak. Every artist stood ready for the final verdict. Anticipation filled the air as the host prepared to announce the winner of the best song. The group stood together, basking in the glow of their achievement. Devoted fans erupted in joy, celebrating the victory with overwhelming passion. The world now recognized them as the top idol group, 4A. The members of 4A shared a moment of pure gratitude. Their hard work had finally paid off. The group acknowledged the support of those who helped them reach the top. A sea of fans roared in unison, pledging their eternal loyalty to the group. Gu Kyungtae was the youngest of the bunch. He brought a youthful energy to the team. Despite his sweet nature, the rapper maintained a disciplined fitness routine to stay in peak condition. Cha Ju-won served as the pillar of the group. His past as a child actor had prepared him for the spotlight. As the leader and main vocalist, the young man carried himself with a polished grace. Everyone admired the protagonist's kindness. To the world, he was the embodiment of perfection. Then there was Seo Taiha. The all-rounder was the creative force behind their music. His talent as a composer brought the team immense success and wealth. Shansol lived for the stage. The young man was a natural performer who knew exactly how to capture the public's attention. His charm was undeniable. The idol excelled at engaging with his audience and winning over new fans. He was a key member of 4A, a group built around a powerful and elite concept. Their rise to the top had been meteoric. Success followed them everywhere. The group dominated the industry, breaking records and claiming every major award. To the world, they were the gold standard of idols. Their reputation was flawless, and their popularity seemed limitless. The world saw them as a flawless phenomenon. Their success was documented in every headline. Shansol played his part perfectly. The young man radiated the confidence of a star. But beneath the bright lights, the facade began to crack. A sudden wave of instability hit him. The public believed in a specific image. To everyone, the idol was a dominant alpha. In an instant, the pressure became overwhelming. Shansol struggled to maintain his composure in front of the crowd. The group members noticed something was wrong. Concern grew as they looked at their teammate. Shansol struggled to breathe. The pressure of the moment was becoming unbearable. His companions grew desperate. They feared the young man was falling ill in front of everyone. He gripped the microphone with all his strength, fighting to keep himself from collapsing. The world around him began to fade. Shansol could no longer hold onto reality. Desperate calls echoed around Shansol. His companions tried everything to bring him back to consciousness. The scene shifted to a place of sterile silence. The chaos of the stage was replaced by the cold walls of a medical center. A doctor watched closely, waiting for any sign of life. The tension remained high as he monitored the young man. Slowly, the darkness receded. Shansol began to drift back toward the waking world. Awareness returned in a sudden flash. The protagonist finally opened his eyes. Shansol woke up disoriented, finding a doctor waiting by his side. The young man struggled to process his surroundings, confused by his sudden hospitalization. The doctor explained that the protagonist had collapsed on stage the previous night. A stern question followed, as the physician believed the cause of the incident was already known. Chancel remained silent, unable to find the words to answer. The doctor revealed the restricted medications found in the young man's possession. These substances were dangerous if used improperly, and the physician's tone grew stern. The doctor questioned why Chancel would risk his own life with such a reckless choice. Overwhelmed by guilt and pressure, Chancel finally began to explain his desperate actions. The protagonist admitted to taking dozens of suppressants just to hide his true nature and secure his debut. Chancel was blindsided by the news. The medication he relied on had become useless. The doctor explained the grim reality. The young man's body had developed a complete resistance to the suppressants. A heavy silence fell as the physician noted the diagnosis. There was no longer a chemical solution to hide the truth. Panic surged through Chancel. He felt trapped, wondering how he could possibly survive without those pills. The doctor offered a shocking alternative. To stabilize his condition, the protagonist would need direct physical contact with an alpha. Chancel felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. The weight of his secret was becoming unbearable. He returned to the place where his public life resided, a towering symbol of the success he feared losing. The massive structure loomed over him, reminding the young man of the heights he had climbed on a lie. Once inside, Chancel looked around the quiet space. He realized that Juwon and Kyungtae were likely still working. Exhaustion finally took over. The protagonist collapsed onto the sofa, overwhelmed by the mess his life had become. A sudden vibration interrupted the silence. Chancel felt a surge of irritation as he reached for his phone. The messages from Kim Minjun were bold and intrusive, crossing every boundary. The young man felt disgusted by the persistence of the other man. He decided he had enough of the harassment and moved to cut ties permanently. Chancel hesitated before the screen. A single touch could end the harassment. The protagonist paused, haunted by a dangerous realization. Minjun held a secret that could destroy everything. The looming silhouette of the city felt suffocating. The weight of his lie pressed down on him. A sudden confrontation brought the nightmare back to life. Chancel felt trapped and vulnerable. Panic surged through the young man. He was paralyzed by the memory of a grip he couldn't escape. Chancel gasped, the air suddenly feeling thin. A violent memory surged back, bringing with it a feeling of absolute helplessness. The protagonist felt the phantom pressure of a grip that had once paralyzed him. He tried to push the nightmare away, desperate to escape the suffocating sensation. The memory of Minjun's dominance left him trembling and vulnerable. Taiha arrived with an air of indifference. The tension escalated quickly as a heated argument broke out. Chancel tried to play the peacemaker, urging the other man to ignore the provocation. The conflict intensified, leaving the agitated man feeling betrayed by the support. Taiha stepped in with an overwhelming presence, demanding a private word with Chancel. The overwhelming pressure of the pheromones left the young man shaken. The sheer power of a dominant alpha was suffocating. Panic took over, and he fled the room in a desperate attempt to escape the oppressive aura. Chancel watched the retreat with confusion. He couldn't understand why the other was so terrified. Taiha remained indifferent to the chaos he had caused. To him, this display of power was second nature. The dominant alpha's presence continued to fill the space, leaving Chancel feeling an uneasy sense of nervousness. Chancel froze as a sudden realization hit him. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The young man tried to deflect the situation, his voice trembling with hesitation. Taiha didn't accept the excuse. He grabbed Chancel, demanding an answer to a scandalous question. Chancel remained silent, trapped by the intensity of the confrontation. A smirk played on Taiha's lips. He enjoyed the power he held over the other. Chancel felt a wave of nervousness wash over him. The young man tried to laugh off the tension, though his composure was slipping. He insisted on his status as an alpha to maintain his facade. Taiha remained unimpressed, deciding that the conversation was over for now. But the other man had no intention of letting Chancel escape so easily. Chancel reacted with sudden aggression, slamming his hand down to end the discussion. Taiha remained unfazed, his cold gaze intensifying as he questioned the outburst. The dominant man issued a stern warning, threatening the young man's place in the group. Seeking to wash away the tension, Chancel retreated to the shower. He let the water run, trying to cleanse himself of the suffocating encounter. Chancel finished his shower, trying to clear his mind. The sudden sound of a door opening startled the young man. Cha Juwon appeared, having come to check on his teammate after the hospital discharge. The leader acted with natural care, worrying that Chancel might fall ill. Juwon took over, gently drying the protagonist's hair. Kyungtae was overwhelmed with relief. Seeing Chancel alive again sparked an uncontrollable emotion. The younger man lunged forward, trapping Chancel in a powerful, suffocating embrace. Realizing his strength, the rapper quickly pulled away. He felt terrible for startling his teammate. Kyungtae's excitement shifted into pure desperation. He looked like a wounded puppy, longing for the connection he had missed. The maknae's longing was palpable. He had felt a profound void during the protagonist's absence. The news of an earlier schedule arrived suddenly. It was a wake-up call that their time for rest had ended. Chancel felt the weight of his absence. He knew he had missed too much to stay away any longer. The young man sought reassurance. He needed to know if he could handle the pressure of returning. A sudden question shifted the mood. The absence of another member became noticeably apparent. The atmosphere grew heavy with unspoken tension. It seemed some grudges were still simmering beneath the surface. Kyungtae bid a warm farewell, wishing the other for a peaceful night. The young man walked away, leaving the room behind. A sudden realization struck him, causing a flicker of confusion. A strange noise from behind the door caught his attention. Kyungtae paused, wondering why the other had returned home in such a state. Kyungtae paused before the door. An eerie quiet filled the hallway. The young man wondered what could possibly be happening inside. He hesitated, his mind racing with questions. A sudden thought about the next day's plans crossed his mind. A sharp sound from within the room made him jump in surprise. Taiha appeared at the door, caught off guard by the sudden interruption. Kyungtae explained that their schedule had been moved up to the morning. Exhausted, the younger man urged the other to stop idling and get some rest. A sudden suspicion crossed the maknae's mind, and he questioned what had been happening inside the room. Taiha remained silent, his expression unreadable as he stared back. Taiha stood in the doorway, caught in a moment of unexpected interruption. The young man gripped the frame, his frustration mounting as he felt completely ignored. A heavy silence fell between them, thick with an oppressive energy. Kyungtae flinched, overwhelmed by the sudden shift in the atmosphere. Taiha's gaze sharpened, his presence becoming suffocatingly dominant. Kyungtae felt a sudden surge of anxiety. Taiha remained indifferent, his silence only fueling the tension. The young man tried to voice his frustration, but the words felt hollow. A sudden, violent sound echoed through the room, cutting off the conversation. Kyungtae froze, completely stunned by the abrupt turn of events. Kyungtae stood there in a daze, his mind going completely blank. The young man suddenly snapped, his patience finally wearing thin. In a burst of anger, he lashed out violently. He demanded attention, unable to handle being ignored any longer. Frustration boiled over as the rapper vented his rage. Kyungtae struggled to catch his breath. He tried to brush off the frustration, pretending the conflict no longer mattered. The young man turned away, walking off to distance himself from the tension. A vehicle arrived to pick up the group, cutting through the silence of the street. Inside the van, the atmosphere remained heavy. The members of 4A sat in a strained, suffocating silence. One of the men attempted to break the ice, questioning if a fight had broken out between the others. Taiha remained distant, blocking out the world around him. Kyungtae felt the lingering irritation of being ignored. The young man suddenly turned, desperate to vent his frustrations about the previous day. Taiha listened with a calm, almost amused curiosity. A sudden realization struck Kyungtae, forcing him to stop mid-sentence. Kyungtae decided to keep his secrets buried. The risk of the truth coming out was simply too great. Outside, the atmosphere shifted to one of chaotic energy. A massive crowd had already gathered in front of the SBC building. Eager fans and photographers waited with bated breath, hoping for a glimpse of their idols. The arrival of the black van sparked an immediate frenzy among the waiting crowd. The crowd erupted in a frenzy. Every lens was aimed at the vehicle, waiting for the stars to appear. A door slid open, signaling the start of the spectacle. The first footsteps hit the pavement, drawing a wave of screams from the admirers. The members of 4A stepped out into the blinding light. Their presence turned the street into a stage. They maintained their perfect public image, greeting the fans with practiced ease. Chancel watched the scene with a cold, distant gaze. The adoration surrounding his group felt hollow. Taiha played the part of the perfect idol. He basked in the attention, feeding the crowd's obsession. Disgust surged within Chansol. He loathed the facade and longed to tear down the lies they lived. The group moved forward, but Chansol remained trapped in his own misery. The fans began to notice his dampened spirit. Taiha observed the shift in atmosphere. He remained composed, while the whispers of the crowd grew louder. Nearby fans whispered in excitement, their voices buzzing with curiosity. Taiha noticed the commotion and looked towards Chansol. The taller man leaned in, demanding the young man's full attention. With a playful smirk, Taiha reached out and pinched Chansol's cheek. He squeezed the skin firmly, treating the protagonist like a toy for the crowd's amusement. Taiha pinched Chansol's cheek with a playful yet firm grip. The young man was caught off guard by the sudden intimacy. The older man smiled warmly, dismissing any concerns. He claimed his actions were merely a way of looking out for the protagonist. Chansol remained silent, feeling the heat rise to his face. He couldn't escape the gaze of the surrounding crowd. The fans erupted in excitement, capturing every moment on their cameras. Taiha decided to lean into the performance, urging Chansol to stay still for their benefit. Without warning, Taiha pulled Chansol into a tight embrace. The protagonist gasped, completely trapped in the calculated display of affection. Chansol questioned the necessity of such intimacy. He wondered if their gender made the display too provocative, even for the fans. Despite the confusion, the young man admitted a hidden pleasure in the contact. His heart raced uncontrollably. Taiha remained composed, guiding the protagonist with a casual touch. He viewed the entire situation as a mere performance. The older man smiled, reminding Chansol that their primary duty was to satisfy the public's desires. Overwhelmed by the heat and the pressure, Chansol felt like a complete amateur compared to the seasoned professional beside him. Juwon and Chansol followed the staff's directions. It was time to leave the backstage area. Taiha looked back with a calm, calculating gaze. He was fully prepared for what awaited them. The roar of the crowd was deafening. A sea of fans waited in a state of pure frenzy. The group took the stage, instantly commanding the attention of everyone present. The performance began with explosive energy. The idols moved in perfect synchronization. Every gesture was designed to captivate the audience. The group exuded confidence as they stepped into the spotlight. Every detail of their image was meticulously crafted for the stage. Under the blinding lights, the members moved as one. The energy in the arena reached a fever pitch. Taiha maintained his dominant presence, keeping a close eye on his teammate. The tension between them remained hidden from the public. A sea of light sticks swayed in unison. The crowd's adoration fueled the intensity of the performance. Once the curtains closed, the adrenaline began to fade. The group retreated to the sanctuary of their dressing room. The group shared a moment of relief. Praise for the performance filled the room as they began to unwind. A sudden interruption broke the calm. The door opened, signaling a shift in the atmosphere. Casual conversation resumed as the members discussed their meal. The post-show hunger had finally set in. However, a realization dawned on them. One of their own was missing from the group. Taiha pondered the disappearance. Chansol had vanished the moment the camera stopped rolling. A man paused, glancing back with a lingering thought. The hallway remained empty and silent. He stepped away to take a private call, offering a soft apology for his absence. The conversation continued in hushed tones, though his mind seemed elsewhere. He waited patiently, his focus shifting as he heard someone approaching. A figure appeared in the doorway, interrupting the silence. The young man greeted Chansol with a friendly smile. However, the mood shifted as the newcomer remained preoccupied with a phone call. Chansol watched him, noticing the secrecy in the other man's tone. A heavy weight filled the air as a dangerous secret was whispered. Chansol felt a wave of anxiety. The fear of his secret being exposed haunted him. Taiha remained nearby, his presence adding to the suffocating tension. The young man quickly ended the call with his relative to avoid further suspicion. A heavy silence followed as Chansol looked down at his phone. A glimpse of a cherished memory appeared on the screen, reminding him of what he had to protect. Chansol remained lost in his thoughts. A sudden voice shattered the silence, catching the young man off guard. Juwon appeared unexpectedly, leaving Chansol completely startled. The protagonist felt a surge of panic, questioning how long the other had been watching. Juwon maintained a calm demeanor, hiding any ulterior motives behind a faint smile. Juwon claimed he had only just arrived. Chansol remained on edge, unable to shake his nervousness. The other man stepped closer, placing a hand on the protagonist's shoulder. Ju-won guided him away, insisting that he needed to eat to maintain his strength. A gentle embrace followed as the man asked about the day's events. A wave of relief washed over the young man. Shunsel tried to keep the conversation light, suggesting a simple meal to ease the tension. The protagonist felt the weight of the other man's presence beside him. Ju-won responded with a soft smile, his gaze filled with a strange warmth. Shunsel turned away, unable to maintain eye contact for too long. The door closed with a definitive click. Taeha remained still, his mind racing. A sudden realization shifted his perspective. The truth about Shunsel's nature finally became clear. The young man walked away, believing this discovery would simplify things. The group gathered for a casual meal together. One of the young men enjoyed his food with appetite. The protagonist watched him, recalling a peculiar habit from the past. Kyungtae seemed unusually restless, catching the other's gaze. A sudden movement drew attention to the meal in front of him. A picky habit was revealed. Kyungtae had meticulously removed every piece of cucumber from his meal. The sight was too amusing to ignore. Taeha couldn't help but laugh at the childish behavior. The teasing intensified. The older man mocked the young man for acting like a 7-year-old. Taeha didn't stop there. He reminded Kyungtae of other immature moments, including his struggle with alcohol. The accusations hit a nerve. Kyungtae felt a surge of frustration at being treated like a baby. Taeha made a bold proposal. He wanted the two of them to go for drinks alone. The suggestion caught the younger man's interest. Kyungtae admitted he could use a drink. The atmosphere shifted to a playful mood. The protagonist seemed pleased with the arrangement. Taeha tried to include another member in the plan. However, the older man had prior commitments. Not wanting to ruin the mood, the colleague offered a helpful alternative to ensure the outing happened. Taeha acted with sudden boldness. A playful yet provocative gesture caught the other man off guard. The mood shifted as Taeha whispered a secret proposal. He wanted their upcoming meeting to remain strictly between them. Kyungtae felt a wave of confusion. The request for secrecy seemed strange, especially since the other man usually avoided him. A third man observed the interaction from a distance. He remained silent, watching the tension unfold. The observer felt a surge of irritation. He clenched his fist, unable to ignore the strange dynamic between the two. Shunsel questioned the destination. The young man explained he had a medical appointment with his uncle. The other man reacted with cold indifference. He felt the explanation was unnecessary and unasked for. A sense of annoyance lingered. The mood between them remained strained and distant. Suddenly, the tension broke. The pink-haired man showed a surprising side, expressing excitement for their plans tonight. The gesture was unexpectedly affectionate. Kyungtae was left stunned by the sudden change in behavior. Shunsel tried to shake off the lingering tension. A small smile played on the young man's lips as he relaxed. The destination was finally in sight. He had arrived at the university hospital. The sterile hallways led him toward the consultation room. The doctor confirmed that the results were perfect. He was indeed a dominant alpha. Shunsel tried to maintain his composure, but the atmosphere shifted instantly. The doctor paused, his tone turning inquisitive as he prepared to ask something private. The medical professional focused on his notes, probing into the events of the previous day. Shunsel felt a surge of confusion, wondering why his recent activities were suddenly under scrutiny. A sharp spike in the pheromone data revealed a truth that could no longer be ignored. Shunsel examined the results. Everything finally made sense. The memory of the previous night flooded back to the young man. The doctor expressed his admiration for how well the idol concealed his dominant nature. A suggestive question followed, wondering if a specific encounter had triggered the reaction. Shunsel dismissed the idea, maintaining the facade of his identity. Shunsel confirmed his status. His membership in the group depended on this lie. The young man dismissed the situation as a mere experiment. He sought to understand the pleasure of submission. The doctor listened, though he remained skeptical of the claim. Taeha felt a sudden urge to clarify something. He wanted a professional opinion on a taboo subject. The medical professional was completely blindsided. The question was utterly absurd to him. The doctor explained the biological divide. For an alpha, such an act was unnatural and excruciating. Despite the pain, the medical professional admitted it wasn't entirely impossible. A sudden realization hit the doctor. He wondered why Taeha would even be curious about such a thing. Taeha remained unfazed by the reaction. He decided to end the conversation and leave. The young man turned away. leaving the doctor stunned by the absurdity of the request. The doctor was completely bewildered. He couldn't fathom why Taiha would even ask such a question. The scene shifted to a more relaxed atmosphere. A private space awaited the young men. A spread of drinks and appetizers sat ready on the table. It was time to unwind. Taiha and Kyungtae shared a toast. The tension of the day began to fade. Both men drank deeply, letting the alcohol take hold as they enjoyed each other's company. Kyungtae enjoyed the drink, feeling the alcohol take effect. Taiha expressed surprise at the young man's improved tolerance. A memory surfaced of a time when Kyungtae had struggled with the bitter taste of his first drink. Taiha teased him, treating the other as if he were still a child. The young man felt annoyed by the condescending tone. Kyungtae felt insulted by the condescending tone. He demanded to know if he was being looked down upon. The young man decided to strike back with a sudden, playful attack. He aimed a sharp pinch to teach the other a lesson. Taiha flinched from the unexpected blow, caught off guard by the boldness. The older man responded by chugging his drink, mocking the pain with a smug comment. Taiha drank the alcohol in one go, determined to maintain his pride. Kyungtae watched in disbelief. The amount of strong liquor was far too much for anyone to handle so quickly. The effect was almost instantaneous. The older man suddenly collapsed onto the counter. He remained motionless, completely knocked out by the potent drink. Panic set in as the young man realized the severity of the situation. Kyungtae tried everything to wake the unconscious man. He shook Taiha with growing desperation. The young man grew increasingly frantic. He couldn't believe how deeply the other had fallen. Despite the loud demands, Taiha remained completely out of it. He didn't even stir. Kyungtae sighed in disbelief. He wondered how someone so imposing could be such a lightweight. Effort became a struggle as the protagonist tried to move the heavy body. He was completely overwhelmed by the task. Kyungtae struggled with the dead weight. The physical difference between them had become an insurmountable obstacle. Exhausted, the young man finally collapsed onto the bed. He couldn't believe how much the other had grown. A lingering gaze followed. Kyungtae wondered how such a powerful presence could be so vulnerable. Taiha remained lost in a deep slumber. The alcohol had completely claimed him. The protagonist let out a soft laugh. It seemed the imposing man was finally out for the count. A sudden grip tightened, stopping the movement. The young man looked on with a gaze full of hidden intensity. Taiha remained in a dazed state, his voice barely a whisper. Outside, the city continued its frantic pace, oblivious to the tension. A driver navigated through the streets, lost in his own thoughts. Chansol reflected on his uncle's warning. The intensity of his pheromones the previous night had been alarming. A disturbing realization began to surface in the young man's mind. He wondered if a similar crisis had occurred 5 years ago. The memory hit him with force. He recalled a time when he could barely stand, overwhelmed by his own body. Exhausted and trembling, the protagonist had collapsed in total desperation. Chansol struggled to catch his breath. His body felt out of control. A sudden noise startled the young man. He questioned why this was happening when no other Omegas were nearby. The silence was broken by a harsh voice. Someone was demanding an explanation for his sudden disappearance. Taiha approached with an irritated expression. The protagonist could only sink lower, unable to face him. The pink-haired man paused. He sensed something unusual about the situation. Chansol struggled to breathe, his body trembling under an invisible weight. Taiha watched him with a mixture of confusion and suspicion. The pink-haired man questioned if Chansol's struggle was due to their shared nature as alphas. Overwhelmed by shame and fear, the protagonist could only look down in silence. Taiha stood over him, his patience wearing thin as the tension grew. Taiha looked at the young man with a mixture of frustration and disbelief. The pink-haired man searched through his pockets, annoyed by the other's lack of preparation. He quickly pulled out a small bottle, intending to provide a solution. With a swift motion, the protagonist snatched the medication from his hand. Chansol gripped the bottle tightly, feeling the weight of the situation. Taiha gave a final instruction, expecting the other to recover quickly. The world outside remained indifferent to the tension. A different man sat in his car, lost in deep thought. Memories of a past encounter resurfaced, sparking a lingering doubt. The signal changed, but the man's mind was still elsewhere. The mysterious man gripped the steering wheel tightly. Patience was wearing thin as the situation grew more irritating. He accelerated through the city streets, his mind racing with suspicion. The silence of his destination awaited him. Every second that passed only heightened the anticipation. Taeha teased the other man with a playful suggestion. Kyungtae gave a shy affirmation, unable to hide his flustered state. The young man remained silent, wondering if the alcohol had lowered the other's inhibitions. Morning arrived, bringing a bright start to a new day. Taeha woke up feeling completely exhausted. He had not rested at all during the night. Taeha woke up haunted by a vivid memory. The image of Kyungtae's distress lingered in his mind, leaving him shaken. He struggled to process the events of the previous night, feeling a wave of regret. The young man tried to clear his head, but the lingering scent brought everything back. A sudden realization struck him, forcing him to face the tension between them. A bottle of perfume sat on the table, offering a potential solution. Kyungtae wondered if the scent could mask his pheromones. Doubt clouded the young man's mind as he hesitated. Frustration boiled over as he felt trapped by his own biology. He breathed heavily, desperate to find a way to hide his true nature. Kyungtae felt a surge of urgency. He desperately needed a plan to handle the situation. A sudden thought crossed the young man's mind. He decided that satisfying his hunger should come first. The young man began to move, his mind still racing. While checking his phone, Kyungtae grew irritated by Taeha's habit of changing schedules without warning. Kyungtae continued to grumble about Taeha's unpredictability. The young man was suddenly interrupted by a familiar voice. A cheerful presence appeared, greeting Kyungtae with a bright energy. The newcomer wondered if the other had rested well. A small gift was offered as a gesture of care. Kyungtae offered a thoughtful gift to help Chansol recover. The young man had even prepared ingredients to cook a healing meal. He sought validation for his kindness, radiating a cheerful energy. Chansol felt completely bewildered by the sudden shift in atmosphere. The protagonist remained frozen, unable to process the situation. Kyungtae hummed a cheerful tune, completely oblivious to the tension. The young man wondered if the previous night had been nothing more than a vivid dream. However, he quickly decided that such a significant event could not simply be ignored. The sudden interruption caught the protagonist off guard. Chansol struggled to maintain his composure as the confusion deepened. Chansol exploded in frustration. He couldn't believe the other man was acting so oblivious after the turmoil of the previous night. Kyungtae looked genuinely lost. A complete blackout had wiped his memory of the events. The young man tried to piece things together. He recalled waking up cared for, but the specifics remained a blur. Chansol demanded the truth. He needed to know exactly how much the other had forgotten. Kyungtae struggled to remember, mentioning only trivial conversations. The gap in his memory was devastatingly wide. Taeha realized the truth. Kyungtae had truly forgotten everything. The young man clung to him in desperation. Overwhelmed by guilt, Kyungtae offered to do anything to make amends. Taeha wondered if this was just a calculated move for revenge. A wave of relief washed over the pink-haired man. The secret was safe. Kyungtae tried to understand why the situation was being brushed aside. The confusion only deepened his anxiety. The young man felt a lingering sense of dread. He feared the truth was far worse than he imagined. A sudden distraction broke the tension. The meal was ready, forcing a temporary pause in the conversation. Elsewhere, a recording room remained active. Someone was listening to everything. Taeha checked the time, unaware that his every word was being captured. Chansol remained lost in his own thoughts. A heavy silence lingered over him. The young man seemed distant, as if his mind were elsewhere. A sudden arrival broke the stillness. A teammate entered the room, acknowledging Chansol's presence. The pink-haired man explained that the group had progressed with their work during Chansol's hospital stay. Now, it was his turn to catch up. He handed over the necessary documents. The lyrics for the song were finally in the protagonist's hands. The pink-haired teammate questioned if the lyrics had been reviewed. Professional duties took priority over the heavy atmosphere. Taeha remained silent, offering no response to the inquiries. The tension between the two men grew palpable. Frustration mounted as the silence continued. The teammate demanded an answer, unable to tolerate the indifference. Taeha finally spoke, his tone laced with coldness. He claimed to be following orders, turning the situation into a power struggle. The teammate was baffled by the sudden hostility. He argued that, as group members, communication was an absolute necessity. Taeha reacted with sharp hostility. He dismissed the request for a serious conversation, weaponizing a previous agreement to avoid private talks. The pink-haired teammate tried to appeal to his memory. He hoped a reminder of their shared history would break through the coldness. Taiha found the situation amusing. He questioned if his colleague was actually serious about such a childish grudge. A mocking laugh escaped the young man. He decided to end the dispute by ordering the other to focus on the recording. The teammate yielded to the demand. Professional obligations forced him to set aside the conflict and obey. Taiha watched with a cold, calculating gaze. A sudden movement broke the silence. The young man remained composed, hiding his true intentions. Taiha turned his attention toward the other, his expression unreadable. Without warning, the dominant man seized the pink-haired teammate. Taiha loomed over the pink-haired teammate, his presence overwhelming. The young man felt a sudden surge of unease. Without warning, Taiha seized him with a forceful grip. A strange scent had caught the dominant man's attention. Taiha questioned the other's scent, his voice laced with suspicion. The pink-haired teammate tried to convince himself that everything was normal. He denied any biological trigger for his current state. Anxiety surged through the young man. He fought to keep his composure as tension filled the air. Taiha remained silent, his focus narrowing. The dominant man sensed something the other was trying to hide. A sudden realization hit the teammate. He wondered if his scent had betrayed him. Taiha confirmed the suspicion. The scent was unmistakable, and the truth was now out in the open. Taiha noticed a pungent scent filling the room. The smell was overwhelming and distracting. The dominant man found the fragrance irritating. He questioned why so much of it was necessary. The pink-haired teammate grew defensive. He tried to brush off the comment with annoyance. Taiha remained unimpressed. He compared the scent to a child trying to act like an adult. Flustered, the young man revealed the perfume was a gift from a fan. Taiha reconsidered the scent. Perhaps it wasn't as offensive as he first thought. However, the dominant man couldn't resist a jab. He questioned the excessive amount of fragrance used. The pink-haired teammate was caught off guard. He struggled to explain himself. Taiha continued to mock him. He suggested the gift should have been reserved for a more appropriate moment. The conversation shifted. Taiha made it clear that such scents were unwelcome during future visits. The pink-haired member felt a surge of irritation. He couldn't help but resent the other man's arrogance. He tried to maintain his composure, but the tension between them remained thick. The argument ended abruptly. It was time to put their personal conflicts aside for the sake of work. Taiha remained unimpressed. The mood stayed cold as they prepared to begin. Finally, the recording session started. The young man focused all his energy into the microphone. The pink-haired member poured his soul into the recording. Taiha watched from the booth, monitoring every note. The producer remained focused. He looked for perfection in every breath. The young man sang with passion, hoping to meet the high standards. With a single click, the take was finalized. The tension in the room shifted. Taiha gave his approval. The performance had finally met his expectations. The pink-haired member felt a surge of excitement. The pressure of the session had finally lifted. He couldn't hide his joy, recalling the grueling hours he had endured in the past. Taiha remained composed, attributing the early finish to the young man's cooperation. Eager to leave, the idol quickly gathered his things. He paused for a moment, wondering why his teammate wasn't joining him. Taiha responded with a casual tone, his attention still partially on the equipment. The pink-haired teammate bid a cheerful farewell as he prepared to leave. Taiha tried to stop him for a brief moment, hoping to address one last thing. However, the young man played along with a mischievous streak, refusing to linger. Taiha stared after him, left in a state of complete bewilderment. The silence of the hallway felt heavy. Taiha felt a surge of irritation. A deep sigh escaped him as he struggled to process the situation. The young man found the whole encounter baffling. Even the scent of perfume seemed like a calculated distraction. Footsteps echoed through the corridor, signaling a departure. Kyungtae arrived at the entertainment agency. The building held many secrets and old connections. A sudden sound caught the young man's attention. The voice felt strangely familiar. Curiosity got the better of him. He decided to sneak a peek. Two men stood inside, discussing someone's well-being. Their conversation sparked a memory in Kyungtae. Kyungtae froze in shock. He couldn't believe who Ju-won was with. A memory surfaced. The two had a history as trainees long before their debut. The young man grew anxious. This unexpected encounter felt like a bad omen. Panic surged through him. Kyungtae feared his own secrets might be exposed to Ju-won. Desperation took over. He refused to let the truth come to light. The door flew open with sudden urgency. Kyung-tae burst into the room, his voice filled with desperation. The young man was greeted with a casual welcome, though the atmosphere remained strained. Flustered and sweating, Kyung-tae tried to justify his unexpected appearance. A clumsy excuse followed as the pink-haired youth attempted to hide his inner turmoil. Kyung-tae felt the tension rise as he questioned why the two men were together. Minjun remained calm, claiming he had unfinished business with the company. The stranger maintained a friendly facade, though his intentions remained unclear. A sudden realization struck the pink-haired youth about their shared professional history. Kyung-tae struggled to find the right words, clearly unsettled by the encounter. A sudden vibration broke the silence. An urgent call demanded immediate attention. Minjun excused himself with a polite smile. The interruption provided a brief escape from the tension. Kyung-tae watched the man leave, feeling the atmosphere shift. A heavy silence settled between the two teammates. The pink-haired youth felt a surge of anxiety. He struggled to maintain his composure under the gaze of his companion. A deep sigh escaped him. The pressure of the situation became nearly unbearable. Taeha demanded an explanation for the sudden silence. He felt ignored and betrayed. Kyung-tae froze. The unexpected confrontation left the young man speechless. A nervous smile appeared. The protagonist tried to play off the situation as a simple mistake. He attempted to deflect the tension by questioning the other's presence at the company. Taeha didn't buy the act. His patience had finally run out. Minjun was caught off guard. The sudden accusation left the young man completely stunned. A cruel smile formed on Taeha's face. He enjoyed holding all the power in this conversation. Panic took over. Minjun's composure shattered as he lost his grip on his belongings. Desperation drove the pink-haired man forward. He couldn't let the secret escape. Minjun pleaded for mercy. The fear of public exposure was far greater than his pride. Minjun stood frozen. The sudden revelation left him completely stunned. Taeha mocked the other man's deception. He found it amusing how easily Minjun had fooled everyone. The pink-haired man struggled to maintain his composure. Panic began to cloud his mind. Taeha remained indifferent. He held all the cards, and he knew it. Desperation took over. Minjun collapsed to his knees, begging for mercy to keep his secret safe. Minjun was completely broken. He begged for mercy, offering his total submission to avoid ruin. Taeha looked down at the desperate man. The power dynamic had shifted entirely. A cold curiosity flickered in the young man's eyes. He wondered just how far the other would go. Minjun clung to the hope of silence. He was willing to do anything as long as his secret remained hidden. Taeha paused, weighing the value of the leverage he now held. Everything came to a sudden halt. Minjun maintained a polite facade, though the tension remained. The conversation shifted toward professional matters, leaving the previous conflict behind. The young man handled the call with practiced ease, keeping his tone friendly. A small smile played on his lips as he wrapped up the discussion. Minjun finally found a moment of peace. A notification appeared on the screen, though it had arrived quite some time ago. The young man realized that Chancel had tried to reach him. Curiosity sparked as he opened the message. Chancel explained that he was heading home with Minjun's help since they couldn't connect. Minjun stood in silence, lost in his own thoughts. A heavy stillness lingered as the young man remained motionless. Suddenly, a realization hit him. He had completely overlooked an important detail. The shock left him breathless. He felt a surge of anxiety as the situation became clear. A sudden pause gripped him. The implications of the message began to sink in. Taeha gripped his phone tightly. The realization that Minjun was driving Chancel home suggested a bond far deeper than he had imagined. A wave of insecurity washed over the young man. He tried to convince himself that everything was under control. Taeha recalled the details of the situation. Something about the arrangement didn't sit right with him. Minjun offered a casual farewell before departing. The interaction felt hollow, leaving behind a lingering tension. The protagonist watched in silence as the car sped away, leaving him alone with his suspicions. Minjun prepared to leave the premises. The red car waited, ready to take him away from the tension. A heavy sigh escaped the young man as he tried to compose himself. He believed his secret identity as an idol remained safe, yet his body refused to calm down. Confusion clouded his mind. He had followed the rules, but the physical reaction persisted. Minjun believed a simple encounter with an alpha would solve everything. He thought the physical agitation would finally vanish. The young man tried to move forward, but his mind remained clouded. Every step felt heavy with unresolved tension. Despite his efforts, the heat refused to subside. Minjun began to wonder why his body was still reacting this way.